So why all this multiverse stuff? I've talked about this before. I'm working on a documentary about Japan. Whether I should or not, that's another video. What a can of worms. I had no idea how much stuff was wrong with Japan. But the multiverse thing makes sense. Because of the critical condition of Japan, I think I have a little bit more insight into the multiverse stuff. What I've said in other videos is they want everybody to be online all the time, so be in a fantasy land. And that's like setting us up for multiverse. It's not really a multiverse, it's just where online do you want to be. And whoever you are, you can be whatever you want to be. So be somebody else and pick an avatar. But Japan is patient zero in terms of social engineering for the world. Now there's some places in the world where people are just outright oppressed and the government squashes them down. There's a king in Saudi Arabia. In other countries have dictators and they just squash the people. But you can see Japan being molded and shaped into the people of the future. And then by exporting their anime and their culture, it's programming the rest of the world. So there's a word for everything in Japan that's wrong with the people. Like they just come up with a word for the different types of the niche genres of mental illness or whatever you want to call it. And there's this one thing, I think it's called fictophilia, where you just want to, like, real life could never possibly live up to your fantasies, so just spend as much of your real life living in fantasy land. And there's a lot of animes that are predicated on this. Somebody leaves the regular world and they go to another place. It's dissociation, I guess you could say. They go to another world, another realm. And remember, biblically there are realms. So when we go to sleep, that would be the astral realm, or you could say the dream realm. But part of the plans for our future is to have everybody be online and high all the time and then just keep programming people. So in the future, own nothing and love it, but you'll have the internet and drugs is what, you could say. Did you ever hear the BlackRock statement? They say, in the future, have nothing. And they're forcing behaviors. Like, why do all the movies suck? Well, because all the movie studios that spend millions of dollars on movies have the same, you got to do it like this. They're doing the same thing that BlackRock's doing. Larry Fink says, at BlackRock, it's a famous clip. At BlackRock, we believe in forcing behaviors, so we're just going to keep forcing behaviors. So when the movies and TV shows come out and the video games, they just keep giving the whole world shit that it doesn't want. That's forcing behaviors. That's part of globalization. So in Japan, people are 20 years ahead of being socially engineered and programmed. They say technologically they're 20 years ahead, but also really they're 20 years ahead in what's been done to them that they want to do to the rest of the world. So hey, isn't Japan cool? But then, when you see your umpteenth video on Japan, you find out how messed up they are and that they have the same problems as a lot of other countries, but they kind of like turn it into a niche category and you can just kind of keep going on in your mental illness. Well, one of those things is, it's a very popular anime trope to leave the real world and go to another world, and that's whatever you want it to be. You're into steampunk, you leave the real world and go into steampunk. You want to live in feudal Japan, you leave the real world and go to feudal Japan. You want to go into the future, you go into the future. You want to go into the realm of like a book, whatever. And the obsession with high school, and nostalgia is a mental derangement. And I would definitely say that Japan, probably as a nation, you could say that a lot of people have a mental illness of nostalgia, mental derangement, and they want to go back to when they were in high school, because there's all these videos you can see on YouTube. What's Japan's obsession with high school? The same as any other industrialized nation's obsession with high school. Life was easier when you were young, and because your parents and stuff. I mean, for some people it wasn't. They had horrible parents. They were glad to get away from them. I'll put that aside. But for some people, there's a fondness for a time when they had less responsibilities, and now everybody has nostalgia, or at least maybe it's not as advanced as mental illness. By definition, nostalgia is a fondness for the past that turns into a mental derangement. That's in the definition of nostalgia. Forgive me for not remembering it specifically. But that's what this multiverse thing is about. The idea that the real world sucks so much because, I'm not saying they'll get their way, but it seems like plans for globalization is take everything away from everybody and you just live in whatever brand of communism, Marxism, socialism is. You'll have one of the three, and it's all the same thing. And all those people that came up with communism, Marxism, socialism, underneath it all were Luciferian Satanists. And that's not good. So in Japan, the people have really taken to anime, which just means Japanese cartoons. And you can do whatever, you can make it whatever you want. Now they have 3D modeling. And I'm sure they'll work on AI being able to make animations very simpler. And if you just want to go online and you look up free anime, there's so much shit. Like every year since like the 1980s or 70s, whenever anime started over there in Japan, like there's so many of these series that come out. You'll never be able to watch it all, even if you wanted to. And a lot of it is just going to other worlds. And I just want to state for the record, I'm not really necessarily a fan of anime. I just kept looking at, I said Japan is patient zero for this New World Order stuff. I mean, we already have a New World Order. We're already living in that. Like, it's being reorganized. The world's being ordered differently. It was the name of Celine Dion's clothing brand was New World Order. And everything was black and white and prison stripes and upside down pentagram devil stars. And in the commercial for Celine Dion's clothing line for children, the police tackle her inside of a nursery and they arrest her. What the hell does that mean? It's like she's openly letting you know that she's like, I don't know, I guess a satanic anti-natalist. She loves kids, but we gotta offer them up as blood sacrifice to old Baal or whatever, B-A-A-L. So, but to get back on point, not that I'm off point at all, the Multiverses is about having us be online. You like Minecraft? Go live in Minecraft. You like Star Wars? Probably not. Destroy the past, kill it if you want. Just get rid of Star Wars. Make it into something else. Will they take to what we did to Star Wars? No, they don't like it. Okay, fine, let it die. Which is just the forcing behavior stuff. It's like, well, everybody hates it. The Disney stuff keeps losing money because they keep doing girl boss everything. This Tron came out as of me recording this. There's a new Tron. And people that saw it said, oh, it's just girl boss again. And TV shows, why? This is the forcing behavior stuff. It's not just BlackRock that's forcing behaviors. It's everything that is your media, all your movie, TV studios, streaming services, they make stuff. It's pretty much all girl boss stuff to lesser degrees. Some people do it better than others, but it's all the same messages. Like Furiosa was good girl boss. Hey, we got another Mad Max movie, cool. No, we got Furiosa movie, and she comes from a place of strong, independent women and all this shit. And okay, it was a good movie. George Miller knew how to make the movie good anyway. But a lot of the entertainment we're being given is ugly. But in Japan, it's appealing. They want it to be appealing to people. Like, there's so much. I feel like I could go into a whole other video that I probably will do. I'm working on a documentary about Japan, and I don't want to be in it, and I don't want to narrate anything. I just want to show you. Look at all these things. Look at what happened to Japan. Breaking down people that have, we all have the same complex of human emotions, like people worldwide, okay? So a lot of countries have the same problems. Japan has runaways, America has runaways, so does Canada. All the countries, a lot of countries have runaways, and then the problems that come with that, which is drugs and prostitution. And now Japan Like I've seen, I think it was a French documentary that I used on an old video that's no longer up on my channel, where I clipped from a French documentary about the French hikikomori. They even call it hikikomori in the French documentary. They're like, look, our French kids are becoming Japanese shut-ins, obsessed with anime and all this shit, and they're going into other worlds. And I don't think that, I'm not really big on video games in terms of me knowing about them, but I know that Japan isn't necessarily like the best at designing games. But the games that they have are like all love and romance simulators. Like the things that they thrive on that kind of come from Japan are all this, like the dating sim things. Like that's all Japanese stuff. Well, I forget what they call it. I've heard so many Japanese names of things. But it's the idea of reality sucks, so go into a fantasy world. But it's outright a genre. Again, I forget what the Japanese word for it is, or even what the English translation is. But it basically just means going into a fantasy land and you don't care about ever coming back. You're just gonna stay there. So you go into another world where they don't, in the real world, you're nothing and you don't matter and you suck and you're kind of lame. But in the other world, you can be a great hero, even though, over here we're all, you don't matter. So stay in Fantasyland and never leave. And it's very popular. And it's also enculturating, and it already has in Japan. And it's enculturated and encouraged this, just live in Fantasyland and keep watching cartoons and fall in love with cartoon girls. And they don't even look human. There's so many videos, the guys who married Hitsune Miku, it's like a Sony, I think it's Sony, CG generated AI, I don't know if it's AI, it was like a CG generated pop star, and people would go watch concerts and they would have like projections, and you would watch the projections of this Japanese pop star, and it doesn't even look like a human thing. It's supposed to be a teenage girl pop star, and it's like a whole nation of Japanese men and boys, and they're all in love with this thing that looks like an insect. It doesn't even look human to me. It looks like an insect, this Hitsune Miku thing. Look at what it looks like on stage. It looks like an insect. It looks like a praying mantis or something. Like, hey, we turned a praying mantis into a teenage girl. That's very Japanese, probably. But that's the future for all of us. Why do they have all these multiverses? Because it draws attention away from the real world. It also reminds me of the way that people behave in India, which has they're like the most populated country in the world, and they use karma as an excuse for everything. Well, that must be karma. Like driving through an alleyway full of dogs that nobody, like street dogs, like, and taxi drives through the alley of dogs, and the guy in the back from another country is like, stop driving over the dogs, and then the cab driver's like, no, it's their karma, it's okay, it's cool, just keep going, we're gonna drive through the dogs, street dogs. We drove over street people, that's okay, that's their karma, keep going. So, and the idea of, like, why do I say Indian, like karma, and also I would include in that reincarnation, the idea that, your life, this life doesn't matter, maybe it'll be better in another life, don't have sympathy. The idea of empathy being a bad word, which is happening in America, which is a bad thing, and have no empathy and say, don't care about them. If that happened to them, you don't have to care about them. Don't risk yourself. That's their karma. And I'm sure there's probably some Chinese equivalent. But in Japan, like, that there's the shut-in epidemic, and what does that have to do with video games? It has to do with being online, just as a catch-all, because it does catch everything. Just being addicted to being online. Look at me. Why do I keep making these videos for free for nobody as a hobby? Well, because it's easy to sit down and just turn the camera on. I just have everything set up and I leave it there, and I either open the curtains or I close the curtains, and I turn the light on and I turn the camera on. And then I wait for videos to export after I add music to them, and I cut and clip. It doesn't take long. It's easy for me to kind of shit out these kind of videos. But now I'm working on a documentary on Japan, And I was like, that'll be fun. I'll just cut. I've been for years. I've just kind of been trashing Japan and talking about, look what happened to Japan. I mean, it's sad, and I'm not saying it like with malice or like, ha ha ha, Japan. It's heartbreaking. And now I've really gotten into it because I'm just watching all these videos and clip grabbing them and just like taking the things that I want and having like a huge, you know, like it could be like a 4-hour documentary. I've done this already. I did another documentary that you haven't seen yet, and I don't know if I'm gonna put it out. There's one video that talks about it that I have. I'm not gonna talk about that, but I have like a 4-hour documentary I already did. I don't know if anyone will ever see that, but the one on Japan, if I have a 4-hour documentary on video on Japan and it's sloppy, I'm still gonna put it out. There's so much stuff that's crazy about what's being done to them, and a lot of what I'll call, I don't know, social engineering of Japan is, which may be an accurate term to use here, but a lot of the social engineering of Japan is just part of a divide and conquer strategy that really worked on them. And everybody talks about they have negative population rate, and you know, they export an anime and the culture is really cool, but the thing that was cool about Japanese culture is that they're good at collating stuff from all the whole rest of the world and spitting it out through Japanese sensibilities. And you know, it's like a nation of people who are artists and flower arrangers with Lolita complex. That's Japan. They have workaholism. Some people don't want to work at all, and some people work themselves literally to death where they have a heart attack, and they have a word for that too. They have words for everything. They have Kuroshi syndrome. But to stay on point, why the multiverses in all the American movies? Well, multiverses are nothing new. When I think of multiverses, it makes me think of the Rand Corporation with Star Trek, where they had the mirror universe in Star Trek, and you know, with Kirk and Spock, which would have been 1960s, right, on color TV. And they kept doing the mirror universe videos. Then it did go into the comic books, because I had friends that were into the Marvel DC stuff, and there's all this multiverse stuff where they're like, oh, there's different versions of Superman and all these things, like you see in the movies, but the comic books, you know, it was like a cultist, like Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, Grant Morrison. I think Grant Morrison was like the multiverse comic guy. He really got into the multiverses. And, well, forget about this world. The other worlds are, you know, like there's infinite worlds, and you can just, you know, take drugs and worship Aleister Crowley and all this shit. It's bad. He's evil. So then that went into the movies, and why? Well, because that's what it's like to be online. Like, being online is multiverses. Pick a fetish, pick a genre, and then just stay there. Look at the groups that have been made amongst people, like things that have been fetishized and exported all over the world through, I guess you could say, deviant art. Where you could just go there and look at different artwork, and then, you know, and a lot of children were there in the early days of DeviantArt, and there'd be all these perversions, and it would give kids the idea to sexualize and fetishize things that probably shouldn't be. And, you know, like the Sonic the Hedgehog with his smelly feet fetish thing, there was a big thing on DeviantArt. Making characters BBW, big beautiful, which means just taking characters, making them fat, and all the perversions, cubing things, turning people into cubes. All this fits into multiverses. Just picking a thing that you like, being lonely, you latch on to something fictional, and then you fixate on that fictionalized thing, and then you just live in there, and you live in your fantasies, and you just, whatever you have to do, your life sucks, you just want to get home or stay home and never leave and focus on your thing that you're fixated on. And Japan has that nailed. I mean, I think there are people who have who are what do you call it, like on welfare, on the dole, or have a living stipend or whatever. They have, I'm still researching, but they have people that live like, they just kind of live like shut-ins. It's hard to get somebody evicted from their tiny little place. They have micro apartments, and like I've seen so many videos over the years, but recently especially. I've seen so many videos where people, when they go to bed, they have to like climb stairs or really dangerous narrow stairwell just to get to bed, and then they basically sleep in a bunk. Like they have a bunk where they can't stand up in. It's very, if you're claustrophobic, you're not gonna like Japan, living in Japan. And I'm sure that's a problem in Japan too. Claustrophobia fetish, or whatever. You sit in a box and you beat off, or whatever. But yeah, they're patient zero for how they want us to live in the future, which is you'll own nothing and you love it. Some of the other videos I've seen is that Gen Z doesn't even care about owning things. They just kind of want to be online. They're unmotivated. This is divide and conquer strategy. Take away your motivations and drives, and then you can just push people around however you want. And then ultimately, I would say, because this is how I am on my channel, and I believe that it's true, is just find as many different ways as possible to have people sacrifice themselves up and waste their lives. And you know, like, I feel like a lot of things, like our leaders aren't leading us anywhere good. So I feel like a lot of the way that we live is just ritualistic sacrifice, where look at what we did to get all these people sent to hell and ruin their lives and break them. And I feel like that's been done to Japan. And also there's a lot of violence and stuff over there too, just like any place else in the world. And but it's very specific, the way that things are done in Japan, and that has been exported and propagandized to the rest of the world. But you can see, like, I'm just gonna have to do another video about Japan stuff. So I'll stay focused on multiverses, because I think I'm gonna wrap it up, and this video is what it is. All the multiverse stuff with the superheroes in our movies is just to get us used to the idea that this world sucks and you could go to any infinite number of other worlds. This also goes into that, who's the guy, Kurzweil or whatever? Who's the guy that has the singularity bullshit, which is basically just like evil. The idea of the singularity, whatever. I'm not even gonna get into that. I'm sorry this video maybe isn't so great. It is what it is. But yeah, I think the multiverses, like Japan gave me an insight into that, and it's just get high, go into other realms, life sucks, bum everybody out, and then demons are going to take over our bodies. They're going to trap us in the dream realm, in the astral plane, or in these different realms that are kind of places where our boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal blur. And what do demons want? They want our material bodies. So they want to have the physical experience, because they either had it and now they can't have it, and they're not going to heaven or hell until they get sent to hell in finality. So here, what is there to do? Possess people and take over their bodies and have a human sensual experience of like having the senses and everything like they had when they were alive, or like they never had and they were always demons or whatever. And I feel like that's a strategy of evil. This is how demons work. They whisper into our ears and tell us ideas and give us the earthly things, but really what they want is bodies. And that's what Multiverses is about, taking our bodies and making us zombies, watching shit, and then taking our lives away.